Eric, can I ask you, though, about the fact that the Trump campaign has said that they wanted to have their poll watchers there, and that I guess they're being asked to provide evidence for something that they say they weren't able to even participate in or to be able to see. And so that's, I think, where they would say that needs to be rectified, if it could be.
That's not true. It's not true. It's just not true. The election poll watchers, they are called canvass watchers. Republicans have been in this room, in that room, where they're supposed to be, standing alongside with the Democrats. There is a specific segregated, penned-off area for the Democratic watchers and the Republican watchers. So the claim from the Trump campaign and the president about that is not true. It is false. In fact, the lawyers for the Trump campaign last night in federal court admitted that. They indicated that there were at one point 19 Republican watchers in the room. So we're getting two different messages from the Trump campaign, one from the president, the other from his lawyers, who say that the Republican watchers have been in there. They're unhappy with the fact that they were 25 feet away. The federal judge said they've got to be 6 feet away. That's the issue.
Yeah, that sounds fair. All right, Eric, Sean, thanks for clarifying.
I don't know how much clearer you can get than this reporter saying 3 times that Trump's claims that there are no Republican observers overseeing the ballot counting are decidedly not true. And the fact that this was said on Fox News makes it all the more potent. To the surprise of no one, the Trump campaign has been trying to sell these baseless notions that they're being locked out of the rooms where votes are being counted, and that whatever votes are being counted are fraudulent, and that the whole election is being rigged against Donald Trump. Only in reality, that's not true. Everywhere that votes are being counted, they're being overseen by both Democratic and Republican officials designated by the campaigns. And don't just take my word for it. When the Trump campaign went to court over this idea that they were being locked out of the counting process, the judge asked if indeed there were members of the campaign who could observe, and Trump's campaign quite literally told the judge that yes, there were members of the campaign who have observed the counting process. So when Trump pretends publicly that no one on their side is present while the ballots are being counted, just know that in court, they've already proved that they themselves are lying. And beyond that, in many of these races across the country, not only are observers of both parties present, but many are live streamed for the entire world to watch. The point is that there were massive efforts taken to ensure transparency. And even though these efforts were taken by both parties and followed by both parties, and thousands of people worked hard to facilitate an honest count, still the Trump campaign is willing to undermine those efforts. Not because rules weren't followed, but because they weren't getting the results that they liked. And so rather than just accept the fact that Trump is behind in these states because the American people rejected him, he'll do what he always does and cry foul and make himself the victim, apparently unaware that it's that very behavior that turned Americans off in the first place. And look, while I'm glad that this Fox News reporter came out so forcefully against the Trump campaign's baseless fraud accusations, the truth is that these claims have been pushed relentlessly by guests on Fox, and in many cases, not challenged at all, even by the quote-unquote straight news hosts. And they'll couch their argument in this idea that, of course, we should all want transparency, but there already is transparency. So saying it in that context suggests that there's not. When one side starts demanding something and no one has the backbone to simply say, that thing you're demanding already exists, then people are going to assume that it doesn't. And these Republicans know that, which is why more and more Republicans are coming out and making the same arguments about counting only legal votes, suggesting that illegal votes are being counted. Or they'll say that there should be transparency, as if there wasn't already transparency. Their purpose is helping Trump push his doomed disinformation campaign that won't change the result of this race, it'll just convince people not to have faith in our own electoral system. And the saddest part is that this is all to coddle Trump's ego. He's too insecure to accept the fact that it was him and him alone who was rejected at the ballot box. Republicans actually gained seats in the House. Republicans held on to endangered Senate seats in Maine and Iowa and Texas and Montana. It was Donald Trump who was repudiated at the ballot box, and that's what he can't accept, that he was rejected and him alone. Consider too that if there was really mass fraud perpetuated by some Democratic deep state, that would suggest that Democrats rigged the election so that Republicans could pick up seats in the House and fail to pick up a majority of potential seats in the Senate. Right, an entire fraud operation where we came out worse in certain instances than when we went in. Again, there was no fraud, there was no grand conspiracy, there was just a rejection of Donald Trump at the hands of the American people. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.